Welcome, everybody, to another podcast on Suits and Shoes. Today, we bring you what I call a bonus round or an exclusive round. Mr. Kehoe, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, has made a second appearance on our podcast today. Uh, Mr. Kehoe, you've been traveling a lot. I was listening last night over dinner about your journey, and I came home and I was telling my wife, I have to step it up a little bit. So tell us a little bit of what you've been doing this last 30 days.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on again. As you're right, I've done a podcast with you before. Most people would never invite me back a second time, so I appreciate that. And congratulations on your facility here,
Thank you.
to you and your team, because I know you don't do this by yourself, and your lovely wife, Nina, who has been at your side the whole time.
Yes, sir.
This building, to me, is a sign of hard work and success. And that's what we love here in this country. And I'm super proud of what you've done here, and glad to be here at 27 North. We've been traveling a lot. And so we wrapped a 45-foot bus with some obnoxious signage on the side of it that has my name, and encouraging people to vote on August 6th. And we've been about 5.5 weeks into a bus tour, about 4,500 miles. This is the 125th stop that we're at right here today.
Wow.
So we'll probably have another 100 more to go. We'll be over 200 by the time we hit August 6th.
Wow.
And just really visiting with Missourians. I like when folks are out telling them, when you're saying, I'd like to run for office, I'd like to be your governor. I want to see them on their turf.
Yeah.
I want to be in their backyard.
Yeah.
They don't need to come to me. I'd like to go see where their farms are, where their businesses are, where their homes are. And we enjoy very much visiting with people and letting them get to know Claudia and I.
Speaking of businesses, something that affects not only businesses, but consumers and citizens all across the state and our beautiful country is taxes. I remember back in high school studying the Boston Tea Party, and whenever they incorporated, I think it was like 3 pennies on a pound, so about 3% tax, and it seemed like they started a war over it. Today, it affects us just as much. As governor, what is your initiative to handle the what I call tax crisis here, not only in our state but in the country?
Well, sure, and it's gone up, by the way, since
Oh,
the days of the Tea Party. I got into politics because I'm a small business person, because there was a building down the street from my dealership that was collecting my taxes, and I had no idea what they were doing with it. We know that as the state capital.
yeah.
And I really thought that we could have a voice of small business in government, and I think that's an important piece of the policy discussion, because quite frankly, people don't trust where their tax dollars go, and they think they're being wasted, and you know what, they have good reason to think that a lot of times. So one of our goals is to, as we're fortunate enough to become your governor, is to eliminate our state's income tax. I want to grow our economy like nobody's ever seen here in our state. I think I know how to sell the state. I believe I can get us into a much better spot, but we have to have the tools to do that. And so when we're competing with other states that have no personal income tax, it's pretty hard to even enter the conversation when you're not able to say that. Since I've been in the Senate, I've supported $2.4 billion worth of tax cuts. I was the first candidate in this race to sign the Grover Norquist No New Tax Pledge. And we've taken taxes down in the last several years from 6% to 4.7%, but now we need to go to 0.
Yes,
And the reason is because, Pavel, you can spend money. The folks here in your audience today can spend money better than any elected official.
Yeah.
So my point of this is it's basic Reaganomics. Put the money back in Missourians' pockets, let them spend it. They know how to put it to work in the economy, and let the government figure out how to make ends meet.
I agree. That's what Missouri needs, and I'm very grateful to have someone like you take initiative on that. On the other side of that, we go into immigrants, and I wanted to highlight first and foremost, this country was built on immigrants. And I remember whenever I first came across this in my life early on in my business journey, the question arises against immigrants. And I like to highlight that there's, two categories of immigrants. There's illegal immigrants, and then there's immigrants that came here the correct way and have made this country a better place. I remember the first time someone kind of made an offensive comment towards me. Oh, you grew up, on welfare. You took full advantage of all the benefits of this country. And I just sat there and I thought for a moment, I'm like, that's kind of true. And I'm like, it was because of what this country offered us. I don't know if you remember the blue EBT cards for food stamps that got us on our feet. And so then I sat down and I calculated how much taxes we paid the first year. My family, so I'm one of 11, sister, attorney, brother, engineer, all went through degrees. And in 1 year, the amount of taxes we paid back all the benefits we've captured. It's been 5 years since then. Our
It
business is
looks
growing.
like you've come a long way from the
Yeah,
blue EBT
yeah.
card. So
So I want to focus on the illegal immigrant aspect because unfortunately it's having a toll on our state from fentanyl and disruptive businesses, illegal businesses. It affects our business. What would your initiative and goal be as governor to address that? And then what have you done thus far to fight illegal immigration?
well, first of all, thank you for pointing out this country was built on families such as yours. Our family in the late 1800s coming over from Ireland.
Yeah,
Every family in the United States has some story. Some dates back a decade, some dates back centuries on
yeah,
how their family came here. That's what we were founded on. We want to continue to be that country. We want to continue to be the land of opportunity. People can succeed and work hard and get through it. But the illegal folks coming into our country are incredible. And I say you don't have to have land bordering with Missouri. Mexico doesn't have to border with Missouri to be a border state.
yeah,
Every state's a border state. Claudia and I were honored to be able to go down and visit our National Guard troops in Laredo, Texas, just a few months ago. And then I went back to McAllen, Texas to visit our State Highway Patrol troops. The amount of folks coming across the border is unbelievable. So, number one, we need a change nationally. We need to lock the border down so that if people want to come here legally, there's a process to do that.
yeah,
But the illegals that are coming across are not always bringing the greatest things with them, and you mentioned it.
yeah,
The number one killer here in the state of Missouri between 18 and 42-year-olds is fentanyl. And the amount of fentanyl, especially Chinese produced fatal fentanyl that's coming across our border, is at record numbers. It's hundreds of millions of doses a year that are coming across, enough to kill the U.S. population 1.3 times and over.
Oh, wow.
And so, what we're going to do, should I be fortunate enough to earn the votes of Missourians to become governor, is we're going to charge fentanyl dealers with attempted murder. And if fentanyl dealers sell a substance that ends up in a fatality, we're going to charge them with murder.
Wow.
We're going to put the signal out that if you're in our state and you're selling fentanyl and you're killing our citizens, we're throwing you in jail and you're not coming back out. And when we send that message to the illegals who are doing bad things here, we believe we can curb that. We got to continue all the other things we got to do. I think we need a change at the national level in November. I think President Trump understands how to lock down the border, so I'm hopeful and prayerful that we can get
Yeah.
that done. But Missouri is going to have to continue to do our part to make sure we spend resources on our citizens, our taxpayers, and make sure that the bad folks who have come up here illegally are out
Yeah.
and are in jail if they're selling bad drugs.
I agree. On the topic of Trump, you've had time to spend with him. How is he in person?
He's much different in person, I would say, than you sometimes see in a few-minute news clip.
Yeah.
Claudia and I were blessed to be able to spend a significant amount of time with him several months ago. He's very engaging. And when he asks you questions about business, he really is trying to understand the answers. It wasn't just like a person who kind of asks you something and kind of goes on to the next thing. He's very interested in the different answers that we have. We were fortunate enough to be with John Morris and Jeannie Morris when we met him. And so obviously he wasn't as interested in the Ford Lincoln dealer as he was the Bass Pro Shop
Yeah.
guy. But it was still a fascinating conversation. In his heart, he really wants America to be the best country in the world and keep us there. He is a business guy. He understands what it takes to negotiate. He understands tax policy. He understands what it takes to lock the borders down. And I think our country will be in a much better, I believe our country
Yeah.
will be in a much better position if we can get him back in there.
Oftentimes, when I'm trying to recruit employees and friends and family to relocate to Missouri, St. Louis comes up. And I didn't know this, but they say St. Louis has a very, very high crime rate. One of my relatives was walking downtown St. Louis, and a block and a half away from her, two individuals got in a fight, and one of them pulled out a pistol and opened fire on the other individual a block and a half away from her. As governor, what do you intend to do to bring those crime rates down?
Well, I've told everyone that should I be fortunate enough to earn Missourians' trust, when my hand comes off the Bible, we will enact a day one crime plan. We have been endorsed by every statewide public safety group organization in the state: Fraternal Order of Police, Missouri State Highway Patrol Troopers Association, police chiefs, and sheriffs, because they believe with their help, we will design a crime plan to make Missouri the best place in the United States to retain our law enforcement officers and to recruit law enforcement officers. We're not going to defund the police. We're going to give them the resources they need to get the right personnel on the street. St. Louis is down 330 positions right
Oh,
now.
wow.
Kansas City is down 350. The Highway Patrol is down 200. We need to bolster up our law enforcement community. We need to take pride in the men and women who are keeping our community safe and running into a bad situation instead of running away from it, and give them the resources they need and the confidence they need from the citizens to keep our community safe. All this other stuff happens, but communities being safe has to be number one. That will be before that day ends on the day I get sworn in. Our day one crime plan will be enacted.
I like that. Thank you so much. I remember starting my business journey and the very first time we met. And not only did your tenure in governance give me the support that I needed, but you had like a unique approach. I almost felt like I wasn't talking to Lieutenant Governor, but a fellow business owner. And then I learned about your extensive background in small business and big business. Tell us a little bit about how that is laying the foundation forefront and how you're going to approach government.
Sure. Well, I've been in small business in one form or another for about 35 years, from a manufacturing background, similar but not as successful as yours, I might add, but similar to what you do here, to the automotive industry, ethanol manufacturing in Carroll County here, and so in the agriculture industry. And I'm a first generation farmer, so 40 years in the cow calf business. You take the business approach to solutions and you find more common sense solutions end up happening.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm meeting with anybody who works in state government, and there's a lot of good people, don't get me wrong, I always tell them that we're going to make a decision at business speed, not bureaucratic speed,
I
because those
like
are
that.
two different speeds.
Yeah.
And as you know, in business, when you have a problem, you fix it. That's what you do. And you go on, you keep going. Same in agriculture. When something breaks down or something happens, you don't have any choice. You fix it, you go on. And that's the form of governance I want to take to the state of Missouri, is that we're going to fix things and move on. We're not going to study it and have meetings. And I hate meetings, actually. We're going to take things under control and go forward and figure out ways to move Missouri forward without having to put together, some sort of coalition of people to study the darn thing.
Yeah. In my last half a decade in business, a lot of people always ask me the importance, the role of government in business, because a lot of times it's like church and state. People kind of want to separate it. Can you talk a little bit about what you've done thus far for small business, big business, business in Missouri, and what you intend to do? So, kind of tying together why it's so important to have a strong leader and why business owners across the country should not only endorse but vote for you.
Right. Well, I think, and I believe that when you look at any form of governance, finding a man or woman who has signed both sides of a paycheck
Yeah.
definitely gives them a different perspective on issues as they come before them. And as Lieutenant Governor, we've been fortunate enough to be able to take over the Buy Missouri program, and a proud member, by the way, 27 North. So
Yes,
thank you
sir.
for being a member of that. But what happens in our over 600 members of all kinds of sizes, we have mom and pop businesses that are 2 or 3 employees. We have businesses that have 1,200 employees and everything in between. We end up finding those businesses come to us as kind of, we've transformed into kind of the small business spokesperson for the
Yeah.
state. And that's fine with me because that's my wheelhouse. I'm very comfortable with that. And you find these businesses coming to you with these kind of sometimes crazy bureaucratic problems or just things that don't make sense. You ran into one of those when you're trying to build this beautiful facility. And you just have to know the right places to go to remind the folks within state government, we need to fix this and make this work, because small business is the backbone of our country and this state's economy. It's 80% of our jobs and economic impact is
Oh,
from
wow.
small business in the state of Missouri. So making sure that we create an environment, I always say, I don't think government should create jobs and we should never compete with the private sector, but we can create an environment where the private sector and the entrepreneurs of the world, the Pavels of the world, can succeed and grow and encourage growth for you to continue to create jobs for families. Look how many families you're supporting in this business that depend on you. So having that perspective as I go forward in government, I think is why any small business owner would want somebody like me running the state of Missouri.
Yeah. I have this kind of, I would say, firsthand experience in my small business of, we call it politics in business. Whenever competitors, they go and they'll do like press releases or spread negative feedback about us. And I'll never forget the first time one of our number one competitors did a press release about us. Completely false information. And I'm young, so I think I'm young. I was like 25, 26 at the time. And I'm calling my lawyers. I'm like, I want to sue. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then I called a very, very successful business owner here in town. He's got over 2,500 employees, 500 million in revenue. And I'm just telling him, like, this is, it's so crushing. I'm taking it personally. I put sweat, blood, and tears in my business, in my people. And I feel like, that's so unprofessional. And he gave me some really good advice that reminded me of you. And he was like, Pavel, don't take it to heart. Just keep doing your thing. And for me, it was like probably the ultimate trust test I had from him. Took his advice, kept powering through, didn't accept it. A lot of times in our lives, whether you're in your career, running a business, in an organization, whether it be a church or a non-for-profit, any I think form of life, we come across that bullying, for lack of a better word,
Hmm.
that pushback. I've seen it coming your way as well, and you've been handling it very professional. I was talking to a local attorney last night, and he's like, I think Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe is probably the first person not to fight back. What is your strategy in that, and what advice do you have for people as they go through life and they get this pushback whenever they try to do something great?
Well, there's different ways of fighting back. I'm a fighter. I've been a fighter my whole life. You have too. I survived as a child in a neighborhood where if you weren't a fighter, you weren't making it out. You weren't
Yeah,
making it out, period.
yeah,
And same in business. You have to fight every day. You have to fight the competition. You have to fight through government regulations. You have to fight. Same in politics. You have to fight every day. But I'm a big believer in that the rearview mirror is 10% the size of the windshield for a reason.
wow,
I'm always concentrated on where I'm going, and I'm very focused on where I'm going. I know where the goal line is, and I'm going to it. There's going to be people try to tackle me and take me off topic and throw me back this way and do that way. I'm focused on where I'm going. And that's always been my approach to life, whether that's in family, what's farm, whether it's in business. You have to keep the team together. You have to continue to love your family, your workers, and the people that are helping you get there. But there's always a lot of noise. There's a lot of haters out there, and they're going to say hateful things.
yeah,
But I got pretty thick skin.
that's awesome.
And so I like to focus on where I'm going and keep going as hard as I can. I'm a hard charger. I'm a fighter. I'm never going to stop fighting. I don't take those things lightly, by the way. It's hard. I've
No.
been in your shoes. I'm in your shoes right now, where people say a lot of bad stuff about you. But I'm only worried about one person, and he's a couple thousand feet above us and what he has to say about me.
Amen.
And that's the person I'm most concerned about. And everybody else, they're going to say what they're going to say. I'm going to do what's in my heart.
Yeah. Family. It seems whether you're in business or you want to excel in your career, in politics, even in the church, like if you want to excel, you have to go all in. We started this interview off with you talking about, 200 plus trips in the span of 60 days. That's full time on the road. How do you incorporate and maintain your family relationship through all of that?
Well, it can be tough. You have to keep focused on what's important. Somebody grabbed me in an event last night and said, just out of nowhere, "Can I pray for you?"
Wow.
And it was really powerful. And we have that happen all the time. I mean, and I'm sure lots of people do. But when Missourians understand the stress you're going through and that this is a tough life to be on the road, and you have a wife who's traveling with you all the time and all the things that go with that, you still have 4 kids calling and asking questions. Mainly, thank goodness they're calling Claudia and asking her all the questions. She has much better answers than I do. But you have to balance that. We still have businesses we're running. We're running a farm. I still work for the dealership. We still have investments in different businesses that we have to balance. And, I'm not a good sleeper, number one. I've never been a guy who likes to sit on the beach. I like to work for relaxation.
Yeah.
And so it's a balance, but you have to keep that number one piece. And you've heard me say this a million times. My mother has always said, if you believe in the Lord and you want to work hard, you can get anywhere you can in this country.
Amen.
And so having a really strong faith and understanding that His will is going to prevail.
Yeah.
You and I are out of control. I hope you do well. I hope I do well. But at the end of the day, it's going to be somebody else that's much higher than us. And I believe in whatever His will is, that's what's going to happen. And I try not to ever let that get out of my sight.
Amen. Wow. You leave me speechless. I
That doesn't happen much.
Your book. So I was inspired to write a book as well. I once said I'd never write a book. My grandfather always said there's one book, the Bible, and that's all we need. But having just last year over 20 million impressions across all my platforms and hundreds of messages coming in, hey, can you write a book? I had probably over 100 people say they'll write it for me if I can just give them the rights and the voice recording. And I sat down. I'm like, I want to leave a legacy and an impression on society for generations to come. I want students in universities to understand what it takes to be successful, what it takes to balance family, religion, all of that incorporated in one's life to be successful. What was your inspiration behind your book, and what can readers expect reading it?
Really, it was young people. As you know, Claudia and I are the parents of 4 children, 24 to 32, I think, ish range. By the way, I met some folks last night that have 10 kids, and I said, that's
Yes.
not a family, that's a team. So that was inspiring to meet them. But I've done several college commencement speeches, which is interesting. I didn't go to college. And usually the presidents of those universities don't find that out until I give my speech, and then afterwards they're like, I didn't know you didn't go to college. I said, see, you should have never invited me. And then my kids had friends who had heard my story, and a lot of young people said, Mr. Kehoe, you should write a book. And I was like you. I'm not doing that. That's
Yeah.
dumb. Nobody cares about what I've done. And I had a young man who was a graduate from the University of Missouri approach me and said, we really think that your story could help. And it really brought itself together. Claudia and I are very involved in the community center up in North City, St. Louis, where I'm from, in a very, 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 very rough neighborhood. And we have a gentleman who runs that. He's a former gang member with 13 bullet holes in his body,
Wow.
who saw the Lord and decided to take a different course in life. And now he's saving kids instead of
Yeah.
having them sell drugs.
Wow.
And he and I talked about it a little bit, and he said, if your story saves one person, it's probably worth it.
Yeah.
And so a combination of young people saying, you got to tell your story, and Darren Seals telling me, what, if you write a book and one of my kids in our old neighborhood reads it and it changes the course of their life, it was worth it.
Yeah.
And so that's what my hope is that somebody, a lot of people will probably use it to throw in their wood stove, I guess, or start a fire. But I hope that somebody reads it and understands that, with hard work
Yeah.
and faith, which is the whole point of the book, someone on my side, that you can go anywhere. And I just hope and pray that it changes one person's life, and it does. It's all good.
Yeah. That's extraordinary. In with final words, I remember the first time we met, and I didn't think you were going to show up, to be honest. It was a big event. It was last minute notice, and we had probably over 1,000 people. I was launching my truck, and I see like people shuffling around. I'm like, it was either Shaquille O'Neal or you, because we were
I'm a
expecting
little
both.
shorter.
We were expecting both, but we didn't know which one would show up. And so finally, I see you walk in. I'm like, he actually came. I mean, new business. We've never met prior to that. And then I heard your story. I heard your story, and I'm like, I've never voted before, but I'm gonna go register. I'm gonna vote so we can have strong leaders like this, not only in our country but in our state. If you could summarize why someone should vote for you August 6th, why someone should take the time and go and cast their ballot to have a leader like yours, what would you say that would be?
Well, two things. I'm sorry I disappointed you, because Shaquille O'Neal probably had a much better shot for you to have at that launch. It was an amazing launch. I've never been to an event that had indoor pyrotechnics before I went to yours. And real quickly, and I know we're running out of time, I'll never forget sitting next to your cousin, and I hadn't met you either, and I'm trying to make sure I don't mispronounce Pavel. And so she's telling me how to say it, I get up there, I think I said all right. I said, I'd say it all right. She said, you said it fine, but in our family, we call him Paul. I'm like, could you have told me that before I went on
Before.
stage? Um, I believe people should vote for me because I'm ready to lead. I'm not doing this because I believe I was born to do it or because I think it's my destiny. It's my way to give back to Missouri. The state is the only place I've ever lived or worked. It's been very, very good to me. And I think because of my unique story in life, my walk through life, both starting out very basic, having a strong faith, being able to build several successful businesses, creating hundreds of jobs, just like you're doing right now. I think those perspectives, along with an agricultural background now, since we are number one state as agriculture here in Missouri, it gives you a unique perspective to bring people together and to move forward. And I tell folks all the time, they say, what do you don't want to compromise, you're giving up, and that's bad. I'm like, oh, wait a minute now. You can come up with a conservative solution if you want to move the state forward.
Okay.
And I tell people our country was founded on that way. You've heard me say this before. 248 years ago, we just had our birthday. in Philadelphia in some small building. 56 guys got together and they signed this document that we all hold sacred to our heart. I'm really sure not every one of those got exactly what they wanted, right? Our country was built on consensus, bringing people together and doing what's best for the country, knowing it's not always individually the perfect solution for a person,
Yeah.
but what's best for the bigger good. And that's what's in my heart. And I believe I have, if the good Lord gave me any kind of ability to do something, I think bringing people together to form a conservative solution, to move the state forward so our families can grow and have opportunities to grow our economy is what the gift that I have. And I'd like to be able to give that to the citizens of Missouri.
Well, I appreciate that. We thank everybody for tuning in and joining us today on this exclusive episode of Suits and Shoes. If you're in Missouri, or even if you're currently traveling, you can still vote outside the state if you're traveling. Make sure you take that time to go in August 6th, and then I think ballots open 10 days prior.
Yes, July 23rd, early voting starts. So if you're, for whatever reason, can't make it on August 6th, you can go to your normal polling place or your county courthouse specifically and pull a Republican ballot. There's 8 people on that ballot. I'm one of those 8, and I'd be honored and humbled to be able to earn their support.
You got it. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode.